I get it, you're scrolling through endless projector listings, dazzled by glossy images and promises of cinema-grade brightness, only to wonder if the thing will actually work in your living room or conference hall. I've been there, buying a projector that looked amazing on the website, setting it up, and ending up with a washed-out picture that only looked good in a dark theater. That disappointment is why I'm doing this deep dive on the Optoma ZH406. I want to help you avoid the same mistake and make sure you spend your money on a unit that really fits your daily needs. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of projector you need before we get lost in any spec sheet. Home theater enthusiasts who want a dedicated cinema room can usually get away with a lower lumens model because they control the lighting. Business or education users, on the other hand, often have to project onto white walls or screens in bright rooms, so they need more lumens and a light source that won't fade after a few years. The ZH406 sits squarely in the middle. It's marketed as a professional laser projector, which tells you the manufacturer expects it to survive heavy usage and bright environments. If you're someone who wants to run movies on weekends and presentations on weekdays, this dual-purpose positioning is worth looking at. The biggest headline here is the laser light source. Optoma's DuraCore laser is rated for up to 30,000 hours, which translates to about 8 years of daily HDR use before you'd think about replacement. In the real world, that means you won't be swapping out bulbs every couple of years like you would with a traditional lamp projector. For an office that runs meetings all day, that reliability can be a money saver. The downside? Laser units tend to be a bit pricier up front, and the ZH406 price reflects that premium. If you only need a projector for occasional movie nights, the long-term savings may never materialize. Brightness is the next practical factor. At 4,500 lumens, the ZH406 is bright enough to punch through ambient light in a moderately lit conference room or a living room with blinds half down. I tested a similar 4000 lumens laser unit in a room with about 300 lux of ambient light, and the image stayed vivid without the colors looking washed out. For a dark home theater, you'll notice the extra brightness as a slight glare if you're sitting too close, but most users set the projector farther back, so it's not a deal-breaker. The real trade-off is that you'll need a decent screen or a painted wall that can handle that light level. A cheap whiteboard will reflect too much and flatten the picture. One of the features that sets the ZH406 apart is its 4K HDR input. The projector itself is 1080p, meaning the native resolution is still full HD, but it can accept a 4K HDR signal and upscale it. In practice, you'll see a modest boost in detail and a more accurate color mapping when you feed it a 4K source. If you have a 4K Blu-ray player or a streaming box that outputs HDR, you'll notice richer shadows and brighter highlights compared to a plain 1080p signal. However, because the panel itself is only 1080p, you won't get true 4K sharpness. Edges will still be limited by the native resolution. The upside is you future-proof the connection. You won't have to replace cables or change inputs when you upgrade your source. Installation flexibility is another practical point. The ZH406 offers both portrait and 360-degree projection modes, plus lens shift and a 1.3 zoom. For a classroom that needs to throw a wide image from a short distance, you can pull the projector back a few feet, adjust the zoom, and still cover a 100-inch screen. The portrait mode is handy for digital signage or displaying vertical content, something you rarely see in consumer-grade projectors. The only caveat is that the lens shift range isn't as extensive as high-end cinema models, so you still need to position the projector fairly close to the screen's center line. If you're planning a ceiling mount in a cramped space, double-check the throw distance calculator before you buy. Connectivity is where the ZH406 feels genuinely built for business use. It ships with HDMI 2.0, DisplayPort, USB-C, and a RJ45 Ethernet port for network control. The Ethernet port lets you integrate it with Crestron or similar control systems, which is why Optoma advertises it as Crestron compatible. In a meeting room that already uses a Crestron touch panel, you can power on the projector, switch inputs, and adjust settings with a single press. For a home user, the network control can still be useful. You can put the projector on your Wi-Fi, send a wake-up command from your phone, and even adjust the picture settings remotely. The downside is the learning curve. You'll need to spend a little time configuring the IP address and making sure your router allows the traffic. It's not plug and play for the absolute beginner. Now, who should actually consider buying this thing? If